Welcome to 216, a Link to the Past randomizer podcast with Fear Agent. I am Fear Agent, and this is the podcast where we do all of the checks. If you're not familiar with Link to the Past randomizer, one, why are you listening to this podcast and how did you find it? And two, 216 is the number of checks that are made in a regular Link to the Past randomizer game. So we are going to be doing all of our checks with our guests that we have on our show. That's where the 216 name comes from. What is the show? Why a Link to the Past randomizer podcast? There is the Go Mode podcast. So if you are a fan of Link to the Past randomizer and are learning about the game and want to know how to get better at the game or get introduced to the game or start playing the game, go check out the Go Mode podcast. It's an excellent podcast for that, hosted by Temp, Herfy, Durfy, and Daaanty. It's been going on for 100 episodes, just hit the 100 episode mark. And after the 100th episode, they're actually going to be making a change to their show. It's going to get a bit shorter. And coincidentally, I started my new show that will fill up some of that time. So think of it as maybe a companion to the Go Mode podcast. We'll be doing completely different things. I'm going to be talking with members of the community here in a Link to the Past randomizer and kind of doing get to know you segments with some of the people here. I've been part of the Link to the Past randomizer community since mid 2018. I first saw Andy and Christos do their run. I believe it was at AGDQ 2018, where they did the swordless race. And being a huge Link to the Past fan, was immediately hooked, as most people are, into the idea of a randomizer where it makes the game new every time. So been around for quite a bit. I missed some of the early stuff like the 512 tournament and some of the early randomizers, but I've put my time in here. I was a big part of the speed gaming dailies there for a couple years, running those pretty successfully for a while. I ended up creating the league in 2019, and that has kind of blown up into being one of the biggest tournaments in the community, which is pretty neat. I am no longer an admin there, though, so it'll be fun to get some perspective with the people that have taken over that tournament. And yeah, we're just going to be doing some in-depth conversations with people of the community. It's less about the game and more about the people that play the game, because I find this community to be pretty awesome. There's a lot of really cool people, and we've got a great lineup for this season of the podcast. So the show will be weekly, coming out every Monday for 10 to 12 weeks. Each season we'll have 10 to 12 guests. We'll take a little bit of a break, and then we'll be back for another season of 10 to 12 new people, and might even bring some people back. I found that having conversations with some of my guests have gone longer than an hour, or could easily stretch further than an hour, but we want to keep it nice and tight. So that's what the show is, and that's what's going to be. And it has the ability to evolve and be whatever it is that I really want it to be. I hosted my own podcast for 14 years called the Sidetrack Podcast with my friend, where we talked comics and movies. So I've got a lot of experience doing podcasts. So it should be fun bringing my experience doing that over here to the Link to the Past randomizer world. And I'm just really excited to talk to people. One other thing that the podcast will be is a chance to share my opinions. If you've ever seen any of the long debates on Discord, whenever some sort of controversy comes up, you might see my name pop up in those conversations where I say, well, let me share my opinion, and then I don't post anything. It's kind of been a running joke that I've quite enjoyed. I just don't like discussing things in text on Discord, especially things with nuance. There is no nuance in text discussions, and sarcasm can be taken the wrong way, or jokes can be taken the wrong way, or even someone being overly serious can be taken the wrong way. So this is my chance to share my opinion about all the things that are happening in the community. The big one being the main tournament going on right now. I qualified for the main tournament. I chose not to play in the main tournament for multiple reasons. A lot of reasons going into it. So I get to share my opinions on what's going on in the community, but I can also share a bit about myself as well. I'm kind of an open book if you get to know me, and not afraid to really share anything about myself. But I've always kept myself guarded in the Link to the Past randomizer community, as a lot of us do. We don't want to share our real names or share too much information, but I'm going to be sharing it all here on this podcast. So if you want to get to know who I am, this is the place to do it as well. My name is actually Jesse Munoz. I'm an artist, and you can find my work on Instagram at Jesse L. Munoz. I've been doing a lot of Zelda art lately that I've really had a lot of fun with. Mostly do comic book stuff, all independent comic book work. But so why I think did I not join the main tournament? It's one of those things that I don't have a full answer for. It's kind of where I'm at right now with the game. It's been a little over a month since I've actually played Link to the Past randomizer, as I've struggled a bit with losing, which it's a weird thing. So again, let me talk a little bit about myself. I struggle with depression. I started seeing a counselor in early 2021, and it's really changed a lot of who I am. And I'm hoping that my discussion about some of these things like depression will help others that are struggling with it. Depression is one of those things where it's like you want to kind of crawl up in a ball and you don't want to share, and you just kind of want to be by yourself. And for me, it's when I do that, it just makes it worse. So sharing and talking about it, having people that will listen, whether it be a counselor or a friend, has been super positive. And one of the biggest things that I've learned is that it's okay to not be okay. I'd get depressed, and I'd get upset that I was depressed. And so it kind of spiral in on itself. So what does that have to do with Link to the Past randomizer? Well, this game can be super tilting. And if you're competitive like I am, and you don't like to lose, and then you lose a lot, it can push you in the wrong direction. And that's kind of where I was, where I was just frustrated with myself playing this game. And there's a lot of luck that goes into it. And I felt like I wasn't going my way. And I don't know, I just needed a break. And I think it's healthy to take a break. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'll be playing the game again here soon. But I knew that going into the main tournament, I could do okay. I made brackets last year, was top 32. But I knew that with where I was at mentally, I wasn't going to be able to handle it very well. And so I've taken a break. It's been really fun to just kind of hang out in the community and not have to worry about racing. Though definitely getting that itch watching all these fun main tournament races. Another thing was I didn't really care for the modes of the main tournament. I think it is a good idea to have variety. Doing one mode the entire main tournament is pretty exhausting, especially when you go further into a tournament. And I like a lot of variety modes. I just didn't really care for what the admins chose. Nothing against the admins. They're going to do what they think is best. 100% respect that. But I just didn't want to play them. And I knew that if I didn't want to play them and then I joined a tournament where I'm playing the modes that I don't want to play, it's only going to make things worse when I'm already struggling a little bit. So mental health is really good right now. We'll see what happens when I jump back into the game. But one of the things that I'm hoping to talk with the guests through the course of this show is dealing with tilt and dealing with loss and trying to manage that. Because I tell myself, if you've watched any of my streams, like, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. And it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's just believing that is the hard part, at least for myself. So we're going to get some input from the guests this season, and we've got an awesome lineup of guests: Gamachu, Moogle Charm, Homemade Beer. One person that I'm really excited to talk to is T Sigma 6, who most people won't know because he's a behind the scenes guy. He doesn't actually play the game, but if you enjoy playing the league, it would not have happened if not for T Sigma. So when we get to that conversation, I hope you enjoy listening to what he has to bring and what he has to say. A mild-mannered, behind-the-scenes dude that I totally love. So a lot of great conversations are going to be happening this season. I've posted in the Discord. I hope you join the Discord, a place where you can ask questions that you'd like to see answered by some of the guests that are coming up that I haven't done interviews with yet. Any feedback would be great. I'm having a blast doing this podcast. I've already recorded a bunch of episodes, and having these conversations where it's not really even about Link to the Past randomizer. It's just bullshitting with friends and getting to know them. It's been excellent. So if you don't like this podcast, it's not for you. Sorry. Maybe we can find something else for you. But I'm having a blast, and it's cool getting to know all these people in the community. It's really cool getting to know the first guest, Daaanty, the 2021 main tournament champion, the league champion from last year as well, on a bit of a break after his historic run of 2021. And he's someone that I've known for a long time in the community. I brought him on as an admin of the league when I was there. I've been on his Go Mode podcast a couple times. Just someone that is just an awesome person that I was really excited to talk to and get to know even more. Of course, we had to cover some brisket stuff, because if anyone had seen his recent streams, will know that makes a mean brisket. So enjoy this conversation with Daaanty. When talking with you, Daaanty, I feel like the most important thing that we could cover in a randomizer podcast would be brisket. So
that's probably right.
Let's talk a little bit about your brisket making skills. You're from the South. You're in the southern areas.
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina.
Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but
no, that's fine.
Barbecuing in the South is there's weight to it. It's not just like I'm in Washington State. It's always gray, rains all the time. We have barbecues, but it's not really barbecuing. You know what I mean? So when I see you set up a stream to do brisket, it's like it's like watching Ari do an MG run, right? Like we're watching some of the best, right?
Oh
so
man, I'm glad you think it was the best.
Give me a couple of brisket tips from the man, the myth, the legend that is Daaanty.
Oh man. So a couple of brisket tips. One, if you're using a pellet smoker like I am, you got to keep it moist. Got to keep the spritz going.
Do you usually do like a Traeger then? Is that what it is? Or
it's called a Rectech. But it's same premise as a Traeger. Just little pellets that go into a fire pot, and a computer tells it how hot to stay. So it's like a lazy man's smoker / grill, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But keep it moist. Don't let it dry out. And low and slow is the way to go, as they say. And usually it turns out pretty good. Like a lot of people, if you go on the internet and start posting in like barbecue forums or subreddits, people are going to tear you a new one every single time. Mm-hmm. Like, don't do it. But the good thing about barbecue is even when it's bad, it's still good. So, you could, as long as you don't burn it.
Yeah, for sure. So 2021 was basically the year of Daaanty in the rando world, as you won both the main tournament and League Season 4. The question really is, who do you want to talk shit about the most after being the king for an entire year? Oh
man, there's so many people that I could not
you just want to
shit about.
Down.
There's so many I should like build up that like we're encouraging because I don't know, my headspace a lot during the main tournament was all over the place. It was like, all right, I just beat this really tough opponent, and all right, who do I play next? Oh my God, I got to play them. Okay, how do I do that? There's no way I win.
Yeah,
like that was kind of the emotional roller coaster over and over and over. And like I remember every time I'd win a race, I was like, if I want to win the whole thing, I have to win this many total races without losing 2 in a row or something.
Right.
And like I was like, this number's getting closer. I was like, don't ever start believing. Like the moment you believe that you're gonna win, like that's when
right.
I don't know. At least for me, that's when you're gonna lose. So it was just kind of like, just be happy to be here. And I tried to keep that attitude the whole time. And I guess it worked out. I don't really know how much else to throw with that.
So how do you, when you get to the end of 2021, right? You win the main tournament, you win the league with the Titans Mitts. I think this was the first time the Titans Mitts won. I believe we've had a different winner every season in the league.
We had a different team.
Yeah,
or a different player on the same team in season 1 and 2.
Team Awesome won season 1 and 2. That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
But you're a very humble dude. Like that's the one thing I know about you is you're not like a brash, arrogant, like I'm the best, I'm gonna kick everyone's ass sort of dude. I think that's why you get along with so many people as well, or you're so well regarded in the community is because you are a person that gets along with everyone really well, because you have that sort of like, you're not, you don't take it too seriously. Dad. You have fun with it, but so put it into perspective though. You finished 2021, as you're going through the tournament, I understand what you're talking about, but as you finish the main tournament, and then of course you win the league season 4, and you kind of look back now, because it's been some time and you've taken a little bit of a break from Rando. You're not playing as much. What's your perspective on the whole thing of being able to actually do that, win both the main tournament and the league, which are the two big, events we have lots of smaller tournaments and things, the Cross Keys tournament and all dungeons and whatnot.
Right.
But main tournament and league would be the two big ones, and you won them both. Like, do you put that in perspective? Do you ever sit back and think, damn, I am good at this game? Or are you too humble for even that? I want the truth, Daaanty. Tell me the truth.
All right. If you want the 100% truth, the no holds barred truth is that I've talked to a lot of friends who tell me all the time that are in this community, and they say, you're really good. You need to believe that you're good. But I don't know if you've ever heard of an inferiority complex, but I feel like I have that in everything I do competitively. Sure. Like right now I see myself like with dance games and StepManiaX on top of the leaderboard, like as #1 player in the world. And I'm like, I'm really not that good at this game. Like there's other dance game players that don't play this game that are better than me.
Sure.
There's been a few times where
you can't take pride in the fact that you are #1. Like that's hard for you.
So let me try and put it in like my mindset, I guess, as far as those two accomplishments. I think those two tournaments maybe are kind of like the mainstays as far as like just kind of basic rando. And I know the league has a bunch of modes, but like Cross Keys is its own thing. Like that's almost in a completely different randomizer in a way.
Right.
And I looking back, it's kind of like I really am proud of what we accomplished, but at the same time, I know it wasn't all skill. A lot of luck goes involved with randomizer too. Like you have to have a 4-leaf clover stuck up your butt, to actually do things sometimes.
But couldn't you say that in almost like any competitive environment?
Oh yeah, you could. But when there's a randomization aspect, it's hard to think about it. Like I know one really big thing is like, when you start stressing about something, whether it be competition, life, whatever, it's like you find out what can you control. And the only thing I could control in rando is me playing and not making hasty decisions or like thinking through decisions. So that's kind of what I try to do, I guess is one way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question, because you've had to take a little bit. You didn't have to. You've decided to take a bit of break after conquering the world of rando. Have you been enjoying that break, or do you plan to play more? Like get back into the competitive scene of rando? Or
yeah.
Are you? Just kind of feel like you needed a little bit of because I mean, the main tournament is long and the league is long. When you get into those, later weeks when most people have been eliminated.
The the later weeks of the league, at least around the house, in IRL world, it was, how many more races do you have? Like, are y'all done? Are y'all out? Did you win? Like, my wife keeps up with it, but at the same time, it was kind of like, we have a almost 2-year-old, and she's 2 now. And so I was like, yeah, I know I've been, not neglecting, but I was like, you've been sacrificing for me to play this. So the deal was, no matter what happened with League, because I wanted to do it, I said, I will take a break and not play the main tournament. And then I'll play Rando, I'll play Zelda, but I just won't, make it something where it becomes an obligation, because, people don't like it when you drop out of tournaments unless there's like an actual really good reason. And so if I just say, hey, my wife was, I need to help my wife because we have a kid, then it's kind of like, well, you probably maybe should have thought about that before you entered. At least that's how it goes through my mind. So I was like, yeah, we'll take a break. And I mean, I've been playing NMG quite a bit, like the vanilla speed run, which has been fun. I've been learning. I don't know if it's actually going to help in in Rando later on, but maybe it does.
It's hard to say. I mean, obviously, when you're upper tier NMG, it's going to translate into your execution. But when I feel like there's a glob of people at the top of Rando that all have, really good execution, maybe not, 124 NMG execution, but enough to where you can compete. You're still getting 1-on-1s and,
right. That's kind of the good thing with Rando, is that like with the little bit of randomization, it's, let me describe it this way, like the difference, at least for me, between playing the two. Like eventually your execution becomes good enough if you practice for Rando, where you can just autopilot execution most days, unless it's like a really hard fight, but we won't get into that. But it's kind of like, if you're a computer processor, you're maybe sitting at like 30-40% capacity. So then the rest of that is you thinking about what you need to do next. When I'm playing NMG, I feel like if my brain's a computer, it's like pegged at 99% usage the whole time, because you kind of, you're racing yourself. It's like you see your opponent, your timer, and it's really easy to just like stress yourself out looking and say, oh, I lost time here. Yeah. Well, just keep playing. But that's kind of what I tell myself, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't let it get to me. It just becomes, because you can do this, but you're just failing at it, like just enough to cause time loss. So that's where, like, I don't know, it just feels like my brain's overheating the whole time playing NMG. It's like, it's a completely different world.
Did you just recently start playing NMG, or did you have times pre-Rando or during earlier Rando days?
I had done one run. I love this because I used to tell people my PB was 2 hours and 4 minutes, and that was like it was just like the funniest thing to say. Yeah. But I had done a run, maybe I think early 2019 or 2020. It was like a 132 and or hour 32, and then I just kind of shelved it. I had heard there was going to be like a prodigy tournament. So if you had a time worse than 130, you'd be able to enter it. And that way you could like get better with folks. So I was like, I'm just not going to improve. Like, I'd love to do that. And then it never happened. So I kind of got challenged by 2 people, Matt 7898 and Clear Mouse. So Matt's been running, the one going for the 124 in NMG for quite some time now. And watching some of his streams and just trying to like learn some execution things. He was like, you could totally get a sub 130. And then that's where it was started. I was like, all right, I'll play NMG when league's over, and I'll get a sub 130. And then after I did that, I was like, well, I could get a 128. I could get a 127. And so, I'm still stuck at 127, but in the middle tier there somewhere. But, you start picking up things, you get better at it.
Yeah.
And, it was just I didn't have any desire to get better at it maybe until now, but I really don't know how far I want to go with it. Not too terribly far. I have no aspirations of trying to get the legendary 122.59 that, everyone wants to see.
Right. Yeah. Ari's going to get it, by the way. It's coming. It's so close.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take it back. Where did you first hear about A Link to the Past randomizer? What was your first experience with it?
I don't remember the year, but I remember it might have been late 2017. I used to have some like LAN parties in my garage with some IRL friends. And one of them was like, "Hey, you like Link to the Past, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Dude, they have this thing where they have custom sprites and they race each other and all the items are shuffled." And I said, "I don't want to know about it." And he was like, "Why not? It seems like something you'd like." I said, "Because if I play with that, I'm going to get addicted to it." And he said, "All right, fair enough." And like we'd been drinking. So I, went back off into my own little world of playing. I think we were playing like Overwatch or something stupid, just like, hanging out. And then fast forward a few months later, I had another dance game / IRL friend say, "I finally played one of these and it was really good." And I was like, "Oh man." He's like, "Isn't that your favorite game all time?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "You should play it. Like, just put it on Twitch and I'll like get in a voice call with you and like I'll show you like how it works." And then of course that was kind of when I succumbed to the temptation. I think we finished that first seed in something like a little over 3 hours or something.
Not bad.
I've got the photo. I've got the photo somewhere.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, all right, well, that's fun. And then the next day I was like, man, I want to do that again. And I did. And then I kind of knew this was a problem. Not a problem, but, going to be. Or another hobby. So we did a couple more. We started racing each other. We were both really bad. And then I just had this mark in my head. I was like, I want to get sub 2 hours. And he was like, "Dude, that seems so hard. Like people like Andy do that." And I'm like, "Oh yeah. Does that Twitch Andy guy play this?" Because I had seen him from speedruns way back. And then that was when I started watching Andy again. And so I started watching that and like picking up on like certain things when he would talk through decisions. And I was like, all right, let me see if I can apply that to how I play. Of course, it doesn't always work because it's literally not, if this, then that 100% of the time in rando. And I saw there was a tournament getting ready to start. And I said, I really want to enter it, but I don't feel like I'm okay to enter unless I get a sub 2. And then the next day I got a sub 2 and I was like, all right, whenever I see a sign up, I'm doing it. So that was when the big mistake, as I like to call it, happened, the 512 Swiss. So,
okay. So you joined right in. You jumped right into the fray and joined the 512 Swiss, huh?
I had not done an SRL race, speedracing.tv race, nothing. I just joined the challenge and was like reading the rules and like, okay, how do I play this? So yeah,
How did you finish in that tournament?
Oh man, I think I finished 3 and 4 in the 7-week Swiss, so I missed brackets, obviously.
That's actually not bad though, for just jumping right in, going, just getting a sub 2 and you finished 3 and 4. Not bad.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. I think by then I had like gotten down to a 140, 130, just like at the time measuring a time in rando was like, oh man, this feels really cool. I'm one of the big boys, but yeah. Probably you get a top tier player at that time playing the same seed. I lose by 10 minutes or something.
So were you familiar with speedrunning before you got into randomizer? Or were you doing the dance game stuff competitively and things at that point?
Yeah,
already?
I've been doing that competitively since 2004 when I started.
So pre Twitch and everything then, yeah.
Oh yeah. And then I remember seeing A Link to the Past at a GDQ. And I learned a couple of the glitches, like, tap, A and Y at the same time for hook speed. I didn't know how it worked. I just knew it worked. And I remember I was thinking, man, this game is so long. How do you speed run it? I remember I would, after that GDQ, I was starting to get bit by the bug. And this was probably 2016. I remember I did on emulator, I would like do escape and see how fast I could get to Eastern. And then I saw how far behind I was compared to the guy, whoever it was that ran at GDQ that time, and was like, yeah, no, not doing this.
Yeah.
Like just the mountain looks way too steep, for me to say I'm enjoying it. And at that time, it was like, I want to do something I'm enjoying. So I kind of shelved it. I played, obviously at the time in my whole life, I think I've played Link to the Past at least once a year before Rando, like just to play through it again, reminisce on childhood, because I played it so much as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I bought Link to the Past like multiple times because it's it was coming out for the Super Nintendo, and I bought that, of course.
Yeah.
It came out for the Game Boy Advance, and I bought that, and then it would come out for like the DS. You could buy it on your 3DS or whatever, and I'd buy it there, and then I'd buy it from the Wii U shop and the Wii shop or whatever. It's like, gosh, I purchased this game so many times. But before we get too far into the Zelda stuff, let's talk a little bit about your dancing career. So how did you get into dance games, and what brought you to like the competitive nature of that? I guess it's all competitive, right? Like,
yeah, this is actually a really funny story. So I just got out of high school, and a girl I was dating and another friend of mine, we were going to go play putt-putt at an outdoor place, and it was raining, so we couldn't do it. But literally across the street, there's another arcade that had indoor putt-putt. So we went there. And of course, there was a DDR machine, and there were people playing it, and they were playing really well, especially for the time. And so we played putt-putt, and we were kind of watching them, and my girlfriend wanted to play it, and I was like, I'm not playing that. It looks so stupid. I was like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
And so the other guy was like, I'll play it with you. He's like, I heard a song on there I want to find, because it sounds like it's an Aqua song, which was Cartoon Heroes, but like a remix. And so they found that and they played it. And of course, I'm pretty competitive. And so he was like, dude, I feel like I did pretty good. I'm like, I'm going to beat your score. So like, I just jumped up there and
so I don't
started
want to play this to, I'm going to beat you.
Yes, exactly. It's 100% what happened. And then that was on a Monday. I mean, I remember that vividly. And I was there Tuesday, and I was there Wednesday, and I was there Thursday, and I was there Friday, and I lost 10 pounds in 1 week.
Jeez. So you just immediately got hooked.
Yeah, it was weird because, I've considering I had to drive there to go play, and I had to spend money. And I barely, I had a part-time job at the time, but it was kind of like, do I want to spend my money doing this? But I was like, I don't like the gym. The weight scale's going down. I feel better physically. So, I wasn't playing at a high level, but it was probably the most movement I could do, or I was doing at the time. And so I kind of was using that as my crutch to justify going and playing.
So it's kind of like your own private gym membership.
Yeah, you just, 75 cents for like 10 minutes of cardio, and then you do it again.
Is that really what drew it to you? Was the fact that you were getting exercise, or was it, what is it about dance games that draws you in? Because I'm like pre-dance game. I'm like, I look at that, I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that at all.
Well, I still think it looks goofy. Like when I watch myself, like in my VODs on Twitch, I'm like, man, I look like such a goober. But the feeling better physically was nice. I was very heavy back then. And, I also I like electronic music, and that was like, I was like, this music, some of the Japanese stuff's a little weird, but the music itself, the rhythms and like the way it sounds, I kind of like it. So, I mean, some of the songs became like, on my mix CD tape, whatever you want to call it, in the car,
right. Yeah.
going to my college classes. So, and my job. So it was like, I enjoyed the music, and that kind of helped. And then of course, like I got decently good at it semi quickly at the time. I see players get better like from starting out now. And I think that's just because of the overall community level of play. And the same thing happens with Rando, I think. It's so much higher. It's just there's such the learning gap that usually has to happen is bridged to be so much shorter, because so many people share their experiences and what they've learned over like 5-10 years. And then someone who's been playing 5 to 10 weeks suddenly, is eclipsing other people, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
But yeah, like just the music kind of drew me in, and it was like, all right. And then I got a couple friends, like people like were like, you're pretty good at this. And it was like some of the regulars that were playing. One of the guys ran a tournament at that local arcade. And what I didn't know was that he like went all over the Southeast and like with like forums and stuff. Like he would find out about other tournaments. And basically there was like this unwritten rule, like I go to your tournament, you come to mine. So he would go to all these tournaments and then people would come to his. So like we had one tournament, like the first tournament I went to had over like 68 entrants. Like we had actually had to drop like 4 or 5 people to make a even bracket. So yeah, it was really just really odd, like being thrust into that world pretty early on, I guess, into semi-adulthood, if you want to call it that.
Sure. Did that continue on? Did you stick with the dance game stuff? Were you streaming that before you were streaming Rando, or did you start streaming that after you kind of established yourself in the Rando community?
I was streaming that before. That was kind of like, I think that's what got me to affiliate when that plan, like that partner or affiliate program or whatever, program's the right word. Once that started coming out with Twitch, and I had, I had not been playing. I was going to the gym regularly at that time, but I think it was 2017. I was like, I really just need to get back into playing like habitually. And I didn't really have a goal in mind. It was like, let's just do this. And I've got a computer that's like cheap. I can set up a webcam and I've got a microphone that can just pick up room noise. Let's just stream it and see what happens. And then, a lot of people at the time, for like a first stream, a lot of people watched. We had like 10 people watching, and when just like your first stream in like 6 years, that's kind of a lot of folks. But it's kind of like just some like dance game friends were like, yo, you're doing really good, keep going, good to see you playing again. And then I kind of just kept playing, and I was like, I don't know, the older I get, the more I like habits, I guess is a way to put it. Like it keeps me grounded in a way. And just having that is kind of like I'm not gonna say a frustration reliever, but kind of just get away from everything for a couple hours and just literally focus on trying to get a better score on something. At that point I know it's like it's all skill. Like it is all me. It's up to me to do it. And some days I feel like I can't do it. And then some days I'm like, I know I can do this. I just have to kind of like find, a little bit of extra mental energy, physical energy, and then like power through. But, you don't always have that with stuff like Link to the Past or Randomizer, because, there's so much randomness involved as well.
And so there's like obviously a billion different dance games, and there's one that you're kind of playing a lot lately. Which game is that, and how did you kind of get to that game from? Because when you say dance games, my initial thought is DDR,
right?
But that's not what you're playing on stream a lot,
right? So that's a topic. So basically, there's not an official way for me to play arcade released Dance Dance Revolution at my house. There are ways around that to kind of like homebrew play, but it's not like on Konami's official servers where, you compare leaderboards against like everybody around the world. And I've played through that. There are websites that have like score tracking. So you can log your scores manually if you want to. And, if you want to upload a picture or a video to show proof, you can do that. So that was for a long time, even off stream, that was kind of like my goal. It was like, all right, we're going to get, at the time we called it AAA, which was a perfect score, all perfects at the time on every song, because that was like the holy grail. And I was doing that on tons and tons of songs. And later on, they added the Marvelous window. So DDR kind of evolved, and I stayed. Like my mentality of playing kind of stayed back. It was like, I want all perfects or better. And a lot of people still go for that, but I don't know. It's so, there's just so many hoops to jump through with official DDR now. And they've actually made a way where you can install it on your computer. It's called DDR Grand Prix. but you have to pay to play. Like you get the game for free, but the number of sets you pay, like the sets you play, you have to pay for tokens to like, it's basically like you're paying. Yeah. And it's so frustrating because, you know, I mean, I've bought arcade machines in the past. It was like before they started doing this, the old games, you just buy an arcade machine and there were ways to just get a CD and you could downgrade to an old game. You could re-upgrade to a newer game and like anything that would run on that specific hardware. And so, of course I ended up buying like better hardware because I got into tournament organization with dance games.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why I have like arcade stuff at my house. And it used to be so much more. Like I have one DDR machine and one StepManiaX machine, which is the game I'm playing the most now. But it used to be like two or three DDRs, like 2 Pump It Ups, which is the game with the diagonal arrows in the center panel. And then I had one in the Groove machine, which was a very short-lived game that kind of is, I guess you could call it open source now. And, you know, me and my wife would load up everything into a truck and just take it down to Florida, do a really big tournament. I'd do some here in North Carolina. And eventually I started getting old and tired of doing that. Like it's not fun, you know, manhandling arcade machines into a Ryder truck, even with the lift gate.
Yeah.
It was like the most exciting and most dreadful week of the year because it's like, you know, I'm just this guy and I'm doing these people favors. They're paying me, you know, for my time and like my machine use, but it's not like enough where if I flip this Ryder truck and survive, like my machines aren't going to survive.
Right.
So we ended up kind of getting out of that and then, you know, selling off some of the stuff that I had like bought and fixed up. And it was, I don't know, it was a very cathartic time of like saying like, okay, this was a really good chapter, but I think the book has been closed on that particular chapter of like tournament organization and having way too many dance game machines in the house. Yeah.
I think you have a very similar problem that I do. That is, when I get into something, I really get into something. Like,
yes.
I'm like pour myself and all my time and all my money and energy into something. It's like, oh gosh, what did I do? It sounds kind of like you did that a bit with the dance games.
With dance games, you know, rando, it's kind of like, why are you doing something and what's your end goal? You know, if you're doing it for fun, then go have fun. But if you want to see yourself get better, it's kind of like, can you sit here and complain you're not getting better at anything without actually giving 100% effort?
Yeah, totally.
And that's kind of my mentality. As a kid in high school, I was pretty lazy. And I think the older I got, the more I realized how lazy I was. And so I went from literally one extreme to another.
Got to find that balance in between where you can just kind of do things, which I think you're kind of doing right now, where you're playing a little bit of rando, you're playing a little dance game, you're doing a little barbecue and doing it all. So
you kind of find spritz and briskets, balance. You know, we gotta, get the powder out, spritz the brisket.
So you join the 512, you go the 512 tournament, you go 3 and 4, and then you kind of like, you're now a part of every facet of randomizer. You've got the council, which you're not only a part of the council, you're one of the leaders of the council, and that's been going on for quite some time. You're a league admin. You also have the Go Mode podcast. Am I missing anything? Well, you're tournament champion, league champion. You kind of inserted yourself kind of all over the place.
I'm not a ladder champion.
Not a ladder. Do you play the ladder? I don't think I've ever even seen you play the ladder.
I play it occasionally. I've been a patron for a while. I really think the ladder is one of the absolute best things to hit this community.
Oh, for sure.
Because group races I would do those occasionally, but I didn't really, I don't know, they didn't feel fulfilling in any way. It was just like, all right, well, that was cool. We won a weekly, we got top 5, top 10, dead last, whatever. It all felt the same. Ladder, I think, is really good. Like my personal problem with ladder is just stuff I want to play every time I have time to do it. It is, at least now, it's like not it's not time to play that mode.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Instead of complaining in the ladder channel, it's like, all right, well, I have to accept what I've got going on in my life and just, deal with it. Let everybody have their fun and watch races when I can, and I'll enter them when I can. But yeah, like, I don't know, like I went from the whole tournament organization with Dance Games. I was very involved with that for a while. And when I say Dance Games, I do mean like, it was like just events with tons of different genres of games. Mm-hmm. And then when I first got into Rando, like I remember telling my wife after the 512, I was like, I really think it would be fun to run this, like just help, even if I'm not like in charge, like just to, be an assistant. Because I was like, it seems like it would be so much easier because it's all online. Like, and to be 100% honest, if I could get paid to run events, whether it be ALTTPR or just like Dance Games or any other thing I may be interested in, I would love to do that. That is like when it's time to run something, I like the stress that comes with it, I think is one way to put it. Like competing and running stuff with Rando, it is like, for me, one of the most stressful times, but at the same time, it's one of the most exhilarating. It's kind of like a fine balance of the two, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Well, let me ask you, how do you find the balance? Because you do have your finger in all of the pots. I mean, even though you've taken a break from being in the competitive tournaments, you're not in the main tournament this year. You're still running the council. And when I say running, you're one of the leaders there in the council, and you're still doing, your podcast that comes out, and you're still doing runs, and you're still doing that. So how do you find the balance in this? You're planning out the next season of the league. You've got all that stuff kind of going on. How do you think you find that balance, or have you not found it even?
Well, no, I think there's a good balance. We even talked about this on our podcast about, like home life and gaming balance. We kind of had a topic on that, just discussing, different options. The thing I have going for me is that my wife is very understanding. She will tell me, obviously, when it's like, I need you to do this, and I will do more than what is like asked, so don't misconstrue me there. But she's very supportive of hobbies. She loves going to dance game tournaments. She loved going to SGL in 2019, like just being like, she likes being around those environments. Sure. So like, that's like the one thing she said, like, I like watching races on Speed Gaming and, ZSR and whatever other channels, ladder, but it doesn't feel the same as like going to a tournament, like physically, like taking your body and going and hanging out at a tournament. That was, I think that's like the one thing she misses, but she was super supportive in Dance Games, like more than she ever really should have been. And the same thing kind of applies with Rando, because she knows it's important to me for some reason. It is.
Sure.
But yeah, she's been super supportive. Like without that, I mean, I wouldn't be as involved as I am. Mm-hmm. It would, it would be kind of like, oh, you need to stop playing your little game and do this. And, if that was the case, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
But, I'm just, I guess with working from home most days, I'm kind of around. So like if people have to, reach out about something, and luckily like council is not as busy or like important. It's important, but it's not as important as I think some people think it is.
Sure. At the time, when the council first started, there was a lot more going on, and now it's sort of just
right.
It developed. It kind of with same thing with the league. Figured out what it was, and now it just kind of addresses the problems as they come, as opposed to like we got to tackle everything when the council first started.
Yeah, because the first time I got into council, I was like, so what like Synax, like, you want to do, who wants to be a leader? And I just remember I was like, the heck is that? Like, what's that supposed to be? Like,
yeah.
We're asking somebody to do something and we've got no job description. And I'm not usually like a HR stickler for that. So then he just kind of laid a few things out, and I thought, well, if somebody needs to be the person who sticks their neck out and just tells everybody these are the rules now, sure, I'll just put me on the chopping block. I don't care. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how, it's a very blunt way of putting it. But I enjoy it. I also, stress about it. I hate making people upset, but I know that in a position like league admin or any type of tournament administration, or council, you're not going to make everybody happy. The moment you try to do that is when you start becoming, I think, not a good leader in any regard, just because you're trying to be a people pleaser.
Yep.
And I don't really think that's, I'm not trying to intentionally, piss off everybody, but sometimes it's like, all right, well,
come on, Daaanty.
I mean, some people told me I should become a heel. I had one person say you should really lean into the heel role. And I'm like, I really don't think that's a good look for me.
I can't imagine Daaanty as a way too much of a baby face to be a heel.
Yeah, probably so. But I just look, you probably know this, but the one time I tried to be I don't know, a cocky guy, it was when, the rules of the mystery tournament where you got to talk crap to everybody. And I started doing it. I instantly went 0-2 in that season. And I was like, you know what? I ain't doing that no more. And then it's like, because the moment I start, I've learned this about myself, but the moment I start talking crap about anything, even in dance games, it's kind of like I instantly kind of get, I'm trying to think of the word for this. I just get taken down a peg. Yeah. And it's like, okay, I ate my humble pie. I get it. So it's like, if you just keep eating the pie, then, maybe, maybe you could climb up a little bit without getting completely shredded and making yourself look like an idiot.
Yeah. So after the 512 tournament, and you didn't immediately just join everything. What was the first kind of managerial sort of role or moderator sort of role did you get? Was it council? Was that the first time you kind of got some sort of responsibility, or more than just I'm racing in this community role in here in Rando?
I remember, so this is funny. I remember before I was a host on Go Mode podcast, it was the first year they did their mentor tournament. And when you were signing up to be a mentor, there was a question of, would you like to, assist in other ways? The hosts were a little more involved with the mentor tournament at that time. Mm-hmm. Because we didn't have moderation team or anything to do that. And I just said, yeah, I'll do it. And then I just remember me and 3 other people were just thrust into your tournament admins or something. And I was like, excuse me? Yeah. And I was just totally not ready. I mean, I barely knew people in the community, but I felt like I was good enough at the time to maybe help people who were just starting out. So that was when I started. I think that was the very first thing I did. And then shortly after League Season 1, which was, I think it was right around the same time, that was when Sir Linkalot contacted me and was like, hey, we're going to have this little player group that we're just going to invite random people, a few people into, to try to bounce some ideas off of for League. And that was when the spoiler keys thing became spoiler pilot. Yeah, became a thing, and you were there, and I just remember you saying, why aren't you a moderator for the league? And I was like, you haven't asked me. And then at that point, that was when you were like, all right, well, if you want to be a mod, you're a mod. So I said, okay. So then that's kind of what got the thing rolling with that. And I knew when council started, I was like, I don't want to do that. And I hope he doesn't shoot me for saying this, but it was AGDQ 2020. We were at a restaurant. It was a big group dinner, and I was hanging out with, several people. Drosy was there. Korek was there. Epibliticus, Act the Boker. And Korek was talking to me about stuff. And I said, so tell me how council's going. I said, because it seems like it's super stressful. And that was when applications were, open for term 2. It was they had just got started. And he just said, you would be really good for this. And he said, I think you should apply. And I said, well, why is that? And, he just basically said, we really could use another person like you, because you're not, what he was getting to was you're not in the little clique friend groups at the time. So it was, I guess it was maybe I was a middle ground for some folks, because from what I understand, term 1 was a little polarizing. I think you were on that, but I was not.
I was there. Yeah, I definitely was there. talk about feeling like you're not ready for something. I didn't think I would actually be a part, like they'd actually elect me. I was like, who was I to even be? I just kind of signed up for fun or whatever. And then it was, a lot of stuff happened that first term and not a lot was fully accomplished either, but it was, I would say a hot mess, I would say, for that first term.
Looking back through channel history, when we started having our own little hot messes, like in term 2, to see it's like the only leader we had back then was like, that was a returning one, was I think Airy at the time. So it was like, all right, well, when cheating came up, well, how did y'all handle this past cheating thing? What are our procedures? And that was where P-Train was like so valuable, I think, because he at the time spent tons of time drafting, the bylaws. For some reason, like the bylaws are good because they keep the council in line. And I think it's a good mainstay to have. The admins were very adamant that like priority number 1 this term, you guys have to do this because otherwise it looks like you're just doing whatever you want. And I kind of understood that, but I am not the best at writing things. I'm not the best wordsmith. P-Train, however, was very good at it. And so that's where he was very vital in that and in helping fabricate that. So we could all talk about it and say, well, what, that could mean this, and we need to edit this before we like vote to ratify it. It felt way too serious.
I think that was one of my problems. I understand the need for it, but it also at the same time just felt like, gosh, are we going to court over this? It just was a bit too much for me.
Like I felt like we were playing politics, and it was like, I don't want a fun video game to turn into, and I still don't, I don't want it to turn into like, a political debate or something. And you still get it with like our people arguing about like hovering. That's like the most controversial thing. It's almost like healthcare or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think hovering's pretty died down though. I haven't seen a debate for that in quite a while. Like I feel like everyone's shared their piece on it. It's like, what more can you say? It's just part of the community, whether you like it or not.
I do want to say that I am so thankful that the main tournament added in inverted this year, because so far this term, I'm going to regret saying this, knock on wood, but like this term for council has just been very, like, we haven't had to deal with a lot of people being upset about things or just complaining in general. Everyone was complaining about inverted. So I kind of feel like, myself included, I don't do it publicly a lot, but obviously I have my own opinions. But I think everybody wants to, if they have something that sets them off, it's probably a topic in ALTTPR. It's like always the straw that broke the camel's back. And, it's part of the territory. And I think it's healthy, but at the same time, it's some days I wish it would always die down.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So you go from being thrust right into like the mentor tournament and then become a mod in the league, and then council, and then league admin, and then you become one of the hosts or the co-hosts of the Go Mode podcast. How did that sort of happen?
That was actually a really funny day. I remember I was at the gym and I got a DM. I saw Temp in my Discord and I was like, this guy never DMs me. And he had in the past, but it was like when I sent him like, hey, you guys should do an episode on this. Like, I think it would be a really good topic in case you're ever looking for something, And then he just said, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And then he just said, I'm going to cut straight to the chase. Axial's leaving the show. We would love for you to be the next guy. And I was like, why? Like, I just didn't know. I was like, if they just said, we met you at SGL and we thought you were great. And, me and her thought you were, a pretty cool guy. So, let's, if you want to do it, you don't have any obligation to stay or anything if you don't like it, or we don't like you or something. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And then the biggest hurdle with that though was the second episode I had to record was at GDQ, and I had to early in the morning lock myself in a closet in the hotel room while my wife and 2 other people were sleeping, and just in a closet with a microphone and a laptop recording and hoping that it sounded okay and I didn't like tick everybody off. Yeah. But you know, that's been fun. I think I started that at like episode 34. That was early 2020. So, you know, here we are, middle of 2022. So I've been doing that a little over 2 years. It's challenging at times because, you know, we're basically like at least as of right now, a learning based podcast for Rando. And, you know, we're about to hit episode 100. The hardest thing, it's like I never thought we'd hit 100 episodes. That's kind of the 3 hosts have said that, like, I didn't think this would happen, just because we would run out of stuff, or we would just say, hey guys, we got nothing, so we're not making an episode.
Right.
But it's kind of cool that we're finally, you know, hitting that milestone, more so for like Temp and Herf. They've been there, you know, since day one, like the inception. Temp's the one who obviously has like done all of the like hosting, the editing. I've edited 1 episode, and a lot of that like was a template he sent me, so I kind of had to plug things into his template, and it wasn't too hard, but the groundwork had been laid, you know. So you know, kudos to him, because I don't think I could record for 2 hours and then go back and spend 2 more hours during the week editing it and still you know, function.
Sure, for sure. So where do you see your role in competitive rando and all the other ventures, you know, league admin, council member? Where do you see, where's Daaanty in 2023 and 2024? Do you see yourself still being a part of the community, or still running in the main tournament, running the league, those kind of things in the future?
If my life allows it, then yeah. I mean, I enjoy it. I do know that, like, for me, you know, some big thing, like if I were to change jobs, it may become a lot harder. You know, it's not anything I'm looking to do, but I'm definitely not like saying, you know, I got to keep this same job because I want to be able to play rando,
right?
You know, like competitively and stuff. But there's like obviously a lot of things, you know. 2020, I had my first kid, so, you know, I've got a 2-year-old now, and, you know, she's finally getting that age where it's kind of fun to go play versus like just, you know,
the
feed
baby
a bottle.
stage. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. I know all about that.
And oh yeah, I know you do. But yeah, like, you know, there's things I definitely want to make sure I don't miss out on. And if I have to, you know, sacrifice rando, like I will. You know, it's not like I have to have this to feel fulfilled in my life. I will say that, like, being that what rando is, like, in the game that it is, it's been really special just being a part of it. And I hope that, like, my plan is to be involved as long as, 1, I'm having fun, 2, I have the capacity to, and 3, like, I feel like, you know, I joke about the whole Thanos thing a lot, but, like, I don't actually want to be the villain. If people are like, well, you know, that guy's still in power of the league and he's ruining it. You know, if that's like the general community consensus, you know, same thing with council. It's like, you know, maybe it is time I move on. Like, if I become bitter and I just hate the community, but I'm staying there for what God knows what reason, that's like the wrong reason to be there. I think this is like a slightly kind of on topic with that, but there's like with some dance game stuff, there are people who are I like community representatives. There's not like a dancing game council, even though I love making that joke.
Sure.
They tried to make one at one point, and that was fun. But there are people who are there, like they interject their opinion because they think that because they've been there a long time, it matters. But they don't care about the game. They don't play the game anymore, but they care about the people, the friends they've made. But they think because they've been there so long, their opinion should be the most important. And I think that kind of is applicable to rando in some regard. And I'm not calling anybody out in particular, but, you know, if you're hanging on to something and you're not like actually having fun, but you're hanging on to it just to say you have it, then it's like you know, whether it be a title, or, saying, yeah, I was in this tournament X amount of times, in the Invitational League or the main tournament, and got this position finishing. Like, did you have fun? Great. But if you didn't, then, are you doing it just to, I don't know, try to feel good about yourself in a weird way? Like, because there's really no clout that comes with this. Like, as someone who's won the main tournament, people, the way you would read the Discord and like the competitive aspect of it, I feel like everyone in some regard, like, subconsciously thinks that like this is going to be the best thing ever. And I mean, it's great. Like, it was really awesome doing. But it's not like, a red carpet unfurled in my house and like money started raining down or anything. Like,
right.
I'm not Twitch famous. I'm just a guy. And I think, we're going to probably see that again this year with the new main tournament winner. Like, it's going to be a person, and they're going to be great. They're going to win, and we're going to be happy for them. Like, that's kind of how I think the whole thing, comes full circle, because there's people like, I like to, I don't know him that well, but there's Ajneb or Ben, who won, I think, the first two tournaments in 2017. I mean, he plays Rando on his Twitch channel, but he doesn't play competitively. He moved on. And, then we have Andy, and, he's like grandpa randomizer hours. So he's still here, but he might be contractually obligated.
Sure. Yeah. One of the problems that I always tried to solve with the league internally was, how do you make it special that you won? Like, you give out some gold flare or whatever on the Discord or whatever, but there's no cash prize or there's no anything, but it's you try to make it, and it's something I never solved. Like, how do you make it special? Because, when you watch sports on television or whatever, there's not only do they get paid for it, but there's some sort of sense of like pride and fame and notoriety and stuff that goes along with winning a Super Bowl or an World Series or whatever. But in this, you just like, here's your interview, here's your Discord flare, and pat on the back.
And then the next tournament starts, like, in this community. That's exactly how it goes. Like, I think right after that was when AD Key started. And, I think what I've come to terms with rando tournaments, like the competitive side, is like, and we see this with ladder because they have seasons there, like every whatever weeks. So it's like, whatever is super important to someone, they're going to put effort into it. And it might mean a lot to someone, and it may mean absolutely jack to somebody else. Yeah. And that's totally fine. I remember when I first joined the league, like, I didn't have a lot of like rando friends, and, Nep and Eddie just kind of brought me in, which I knew Nep long time ago, like from some video game stuff. And then we just disconnected, and then suddenly it's like, oh, she's playing this. That's cool. And then we kind of reconnected. We weren't like, I wasn't like trying to be close with Nep at that point, but it just so happened it kind of worked out where we were teammates and, reconnected. But the league was something, to me, it was like, I really liked the concept. And that's one reason why I was, all on board when you said, do you want to be a mod? And I'm like, yeah, because the league is like all about having fun with your friends. Like, I remember you saying that was kind of what you wanted it to start on. And I feel like it's very competitive now. It's maybe borderline too competitive, but I think in the end, like, people should still have fun. But I remember I told myself, I was like, if I can ever win one thing, I really want to win league. Like, that would, because it's like, it's not like I did this, it's like we did this. We did it. We got lucky. We played well. We checked all the boxes. It wasn't I did this, because like the main tournament, super stressful. Like, granted, I wouldn't trade that experience away, but I think the league was like, I think every season we got third except one. Season two with the bigger playoff, we lost out pretty early, but seasons 1 and 3 we got third, and it was like, man, we've been right there. Kind of getting that done was nice. And, but yeah, it just, I don't know, a 1v1 tournament is great, and a team tournament is great. And that's one of the great things about Rando in the community is just, you've got so many different flavors of how to compete, how to have fun. There was a tournament not too long ago that was a co-op tournament, and it was like they had their own name and it had league in it. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I'm thinking it was called Legend League. That's it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it's like, well, this is cool. Like, these folks are doing a little mini tournament and it's fun. I remember the casual rando Discord, long, rest in peace, I guess, because it's pretty dead.
Yeah.
They did their own co-op tournament, and that was super fun. Super chill, super fun. But
I finished second place in that tournament. I really like that tournament.
Oh, heck yeah.
I think so. I think I finished second place. I mean, I was just riding Gamma Juice Goat Tails that time, so it didn't really matter. But
oh man, that's honestly how I felt for a long time. It was like in League, I was like, man, I'm riding Eddie and Nep's coattails. That was the inferiority complex all the time. It was like totally. I was working and getting better, and I'm like, God, I suck at this game.
We're gonna wrap this up here, but I want to ask you one last thing, and this is something that's I feel like is a big part of it's not just rando. It's just any sort of gaming or competitive aspect is tilt. I suffer from it. I know I've been on a rando break just because of so much tilt, and people lose and they cut their opponents down and But one person that I haven't never seen tilt from is you. I don't see you get tilted visibly, or you don't take it out on your opponent, or you handle it with some dignity. Like losing sucks. Everyone knows that losing sucks, but it sucks. It makes it worse when you win and the person that lost calls you out for some bullshit play that they think you made, or what I mean, and you get tilted out, and it's just a part of this community, not just rando, obviously, but it's a pretty big part here. How do you avoid tilt? Is it just in your nature because you are such a chill dude, or do you just bury it all inside of you and no one can see it?
A lot of times I'll get very tilted at myself. Usually if someone makes a crazy play and it works, and that's like the decider, like I was ahead until they did that, and then, watching it back, and then they beat me. My thought is like, really? And then I kind of just think about it, and it's like, well, I had the exact same opportunity, but I didn't have the balls to do something brash. So, that's why I tell people, when we talk about like, how do you route this seed? Like if you have these items and you've got this stuff, it's like, here are your options. And if you want to go there, why are you going there? Like, why are you making that check? So yeah, I get tilted. I think I've been more tilted at NMG than I've ever been at rando, if I'm being 100% honest, because I know that's like me, like that's my execution.
So you don't tilt
I get frustrated.
So you take your tilt out on yourself, not on your opponent then.
Yeah, not in a bad way. I think part of that is the competitive side of dance games is that pretty much like you become friends with like most everybody. So dance game tournaments back in the day, even most of them today up until like COVID times were in person. So you would have to travel, meet people that you've talked to on the internet, in person together. In rando, we mostly just hide away in our offices or our gaming room or whatever, and we just play. So, if you've ever played something like Rocket League or Overwatch, it's really easy to just lay into somebody because you've got a keyboard in front of you and it's a faceless person. I feel like a lot of times with the competitive side is like, how would I want to be treated? Like, obviously when I'm racing you, like if I'm racing you Fear, I'm coming to beat the crap out of you. That is the goal. Yep. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to want to be a dick to you if you beat me. And just like if I beat you, I wouldn't want you to be a dick to me about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I look at it, because, you know, if someone's like rude to me, of course I'm probably going to be rude back. I'm not going to lie. Like I may try to, like, you know, I might type something and backspace it before I actually send it. You know, I've done that multiple times, but is it worth it though? Like that's kind of what I always tell, you know, some people that I'm close to in rando is like, you know, if I see them upset about something, it's like, there's no, Matt has a good emote for this. There is no need to be upset. But it's a game. That's, you know, you know, if I lose, if I go enter a cross keys ladder and get smoked by 30 minutes, the sun is going to come up tomorrow and I'm going to, you know, go to work, or, you know, so to speak, and my life is going to go on. Like, if I lose out if I don't qualify for the main tournament in qualifiers, if I was 129 and didn't make it because all 128 accepted the invitation, then, you know, that's just how it goes. It's, it sucks. And of course, like, I mean, I'll be honest, like a lot of times I do overanalyze post race. Like I'll think about it. Like if I finished a race before I go to bed, that's on my mind. Like, dude, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? But it's not something where I still see the point of like getting mad at somebody else, you know, like even if stuff just is completely out of your control or out of their control, it's like sometimes stupid crap happens, unfortunately. And, sometimes like, you know, someone makes a really, really lucky play, and I've been on the benefiting end of that and the receiving end of it sucking. So it's like, well, you know, I'll take it. That's kind of the way I look at it.
For sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, man. We think we covered it all, right? Did we miss anything?
Yeah. Man, the gig you've got here, I think, is great. Like, your studio's really good, and I'm looking forward to when you upgrade to the video version and everybody can see how cool the studio is.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. I feel honored that, you know, you asked me on here. I'm kind of hyped for this. I
mean, I needed the face of Rando to be my premiere episode. So 2021, the year of Daaanty, is moving on. No, man, I appreciate you coming on. I really do. And, good luck in your future races. And, you know, if you ever need someone to come taste your brisket, you know, give me a ring. I might have to fly over.
Anybody rolls through NC, like, shoot me a DM. The worst I can say is no. But I am not that, you know, I'm always for meeting people. I'm really looking forward to, you know, SGL again in person later this year in 2022. So, hopefully going to be a really good time.
I think so. All right, Daaanty. See you later, man.
Have a good one.
So thanks for hanging out with us, and hope to hear what you think about 216. And if you're enjoying these conversations, again, you can leave any questions in the Discord. We have a link on the website, 216pod.com, where you can join our Discord. Jump in on the conversation. What did you think about our first conversation with Daaanty? Daanty's such a fun guy. He's just such a good dude to talk and hang out with. So I imagine that we'll have Daaanty on again, just because he is so much fun, and he's got a million stories as well. And he's pretty dang good at the game. So, all right, that's going to do it here for 216 Pod. I am Fear Agent. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.